Crash Team Rumble, the new online multiplayer Crash Bandicoot game, has been out for almost a couple weeks now. I've had my fair share of time with it so far and thought it would be fun to compile some opinions I have about the game into this video. Though, due to the nature of online multiplayer games, I feel it would be a bit weird to review this like any other game. It's more of a first step in a longer journey, which is why I've titled this Launch Review, as I'm writing this before most of Season 1's content is yet to drop. I plan to make new videos at the end of each season and talk about things that have been added or changed, eventually culminating in a full recap review when the game inevitably dies way too early. But I'll hope against that. Let's start slightly before the launch, at the beta weekend that stretched from April 20th to April 24th. One issue I think many people can agree on when it came to the rollout of this beta is that it should have been open. Closing it behind pre-ordering the game left out a ton of potential players that may have bought the game had they gotten to try it before buying it. Crash Team Rumble is a very fun game, yet communicating that fun to people over the internet seemed to be a difficult thing for Toys for Bob. A closed beta did not offer anything to the consumer other than reminding them that they bought this game, whether they liked it or not. And yes, I know that halfway through the weekend Activision was giving away beta codes, but by then it was too late. Too many people were on the fence for this beta to be this exclusive. The amount of pushback from the Crash community themselves should have been enough to show that Rumble needed to prove itself without first requiring payment. Other than all that, the beta was fun. Even I, someone who's not typically a fan of online multiplayer games, was pleasantly surprised on just how fun Rumble really was. The beta consisted of 3 maps and 5 characters, though the base game would raise that to 9 maps and 8 characters, and counting. If you were not a fan of the beta, there really isn't anything else the game can currently throw at you to reel you back in. The beta gave a pretty crystal clear picture on what to expect from the product you had already committed to purchasing. Alright, I'll move on from that. Why don't I explain to anyone that may be in the dark how a standard game of Rumble works? 2 teams of 4 race to collect 2,000 Wumpa before the others, with power-ups and stage hazards and, of course, platforming to keep the journey to that goal interesting. All the characters are split into 3 soft roles. Soft because every character can do what they want, but their specific skill set leads them to excel in one of 3 areas: scoring, boosting, and blocking. Scorers are mobile and relatively sturdy characters that can hold the most Wumpa on their person at any one time. Boosters are nimble but frail characters that hold the least amount of Wumpa, however are specifically suited to unlocking the relic stations of the map. We'll go into detail with that in a second. And blockers are the best into getting into playground brawls. They usually sit in the middle in terms of Wumpa capacity and are usually quite slow, but make up for it by being tough, offensively and defensively. Knocking about other characters has them lose their Wumpa, and knocking them out can even give you half of their relics that they were holding. Okay, here we go, relics. Relics are almost like a currency for the map that you're on. You collect them separate from Wumpa with a max of 15 for any one character, and you spend them on relic stations. These stations can range from stage hazards to power-ups to massive stage-wide effects that can seriously turn the tide of battle. Boosters have an extra quirk that allows them to sometimes collect 2 relics instead of 1. The last and arguably most important piece of Rumble gameplay are the gem paths. Most maps will have at least an A path and a B path of gem platforms, each one close to a specific team. Jumping and securing these paths for a period of time will earn you a percentage boost on the Wumpa your team turn in. The thing is, it's very possible for one team to get both the A and the B path for themselves, upping the bonus even more. And to make it even more chaotic, there's usually a 3rd set of gems sitting somewhere in the center of the map for either team to take. If you're quick and good on your feet, your team can sometimes secure a 100% bonus on your Wumpa turn in. Getting these paths not only give your team a bonus, but keep the bonus away from the opposing team. The game is incredibly addicting, with matches lasting on average between 3 to 7 minutes. The foundation for an incredibly long-lasting online multiplayer game is here, so what's wrong with it? I'd consider myself an optimist when it comes to franchises I'm a fan of, but even I have to admit I'm a little concerned with the life this game has in it. The Crash Bandicoot name is synonymous with tightly designed single-player platforming games, not online multiplayer live service games. So with the cost associated with buying the game in the first place, How is Crash Team Rumble supposed to establish a large player base to survive the seasons it has planned? If we're to focus on what the actual players think of the game, people are pleasantly surprised. It still has strides to make in terms of its content and variety in game modes, but the game's pure foundation and skeleton is some of the best I've personally seen in my limited online multiplayer experience. It's the promise for more content that gave me the idea to document and chronicle my experience with Crash Team Rumble throughout the seasons, beginning with a launch video and following up every time a season comes to a close. So far, matchmaking works well. Sometimes you can get into a game within seconds, other times not so much. But that's not something I hold against the game itself. There was a time early in the morning where I matched with one other person and the game didn't allow us to add 3 bots to each other's teams. I'd like to see some more flexibility with that when players are prepared to play with bots, to start the game rather than stall, waiting for more players that aren't coming at 4 AM in the morning. There have been a couple times where the game has teleported me, lagging me into lava pits or some random visual glitches. For me it was quite rare, but for my brother it was almost every play session. He was playing on the previous gen version, so I'm not sure how much of a difference that makes. Other than connective issues, the game runs and looks just as amazing as 2020's Crash 4, with incredibly smooth and responsive controls on every single character. The polish that is clearly poured into this game should not go ignored. In terms of cosmetic unlockables, everyone has access to a 3-month-long battle pass. Once we start getting into the later seasons, however, we can expect them to have a extra cost attached. Skins, hats, backpacks are all nice, with some characters getting unique item skins like Dingodile's vacuum or Cortex's blaster. Your profile can also be customized with banners, icons, and even music tracks that play when you get a knockout or score top performer for the match. And if the music is a little too much, you can always subject people to silence. The only piece of customization that doesn't quite gel with me though are the emotes. They're all designed well enough, but I struggle to work out when you would actually use these in gameplay. I understand that emotes are standard fare after knocking out opponents in a multiplayer game, but in a game as chaotic and short as Rumble, those extra seconds could have been crucial to win the game rather than playing air guitar with Dingodile. Some more opportunity to actually use these quirky animations would have been nice. Now let's try something a little unique. Going through all the powers, heroes and maps, I'll order them from worst to best, in my opinion, and I cannot stress that enough. As all the maps, characters, and items go, they're all pretty well balanced in a way that makes them pretty hard to order. I'll be ranking everything based on how they are to use as an individual playing with randoms, playing on an actively communicating team, and just how fun they are to use in general. Now let's start with powers. Number 7, Power Drain. The only power where I can't seem to get a good read on how it actually affects gameplay. Like, I see what it's doing, but whether it feels like it makes a difference equal to the others is questionable at best. Number 6. Bounce Crates. After finally unlocking this one, I was underwhelmed. It doesn't go that high and doesn't make me feel like I got much value out of it versus the others. However, the potential for Bounce Crates is starting to show, like using it on Tar Valley to account for little to no verticality, or maybe more importantly, to use with Brio to get a head start on that long transforming animation. Number 5. Garbage Dump. Garbage Dump is an interesting case. I feel like you get the best value out of Garbage Dump when another member of your team already has the guard equipped. Guard and Dump can be put on the same spot together, so there is a strategy to be made using them both in tandem, like using your own Garbage Dump to damage the other team's guard, or doubling down with your own team to make a bank almost inaccessible for a time. Number 4, Flytrap Spitter. Flytrap Spitter is essentially Gazmoxian Guard Light, but with 3 charges instead of 1. It can only attack one player at once and has much less health than the guard, but there are other things that the Spitter shares with the guard, like being able to capture gems and stop the other team's powers from being placed on certain spots. It does lack the impact of the guard and at least the projectiles home in, something I can't remember being in the beta. Number 3, Healing Fridge. 1 Healing Fridge user per team is almost a must. All team members can make use of it at once, making it a great support option. Though if you're playing with random teams, you more than likely don't want to be the one using the fridge, unless you love being a bank sitting blocker. For that it's great. Number 2, Wumpa Stash. These next 2 could honestly be placed in either spot personally. The Wumpa Stash is probably the power I use most often, as I tend to enjoy scoring more than boosting and blocking. The Wumpa Stash just gives you that slight edge when it comes to banking higher numbers, and if you can manage to acquire a gem boost or 2, the Wumpa Stash just gets better and better. Number 1, Gasmoxian Guard. This power is so powerful and its impact on the game is no joke. A single well-placed guard can make the difference between banking for game or acquiring a gem boost. It has the capacity to take out entire teams at once, or at the very least keep them away for a period of time. Even though I don't use guard as much as the Wumperstash, I'd be denying it if I didn't say the guard was the best power in the game. No team should rumble without it. Now let's rank the characters. Again, all pretty well balanced and fun to play, making it incredibly hard to order them worst to best. Let me know what your favourite character to play as and why down in the comments below. Number 8, Crash Bandicoot. I know it may seem strange that the main character is dead last on this list, but as my time with the rest of the characters have gone on, there's been little to no reason to go back to Crash. I don't think that's necessarily a mistake either. He's the simple, standard, well-balanced character that allows new players to grasp the concepts of the game before moving on to other characters. He's the beefiest out of the 3 scorers and has a pretty decent knockback move in the slide. But apart from that, I feel Torna and Coco are both better at being Crash than Crash. Number 7. Dr. Embryo. When I first played Embryo on launch day, I hated him. He's slow, weak, and his transformation leaves him far too open to attacks. As I've learned more about how I can use Embryo on each map, he's gotten a whole lot more fun. Learning the best places to transform, or the perfect spots to shoot your slime monsters to capture gems, Brio has at the very least been a challenging yet interesting character to play as. With the bounce crates becoming almost a must-have for any Brio, it seems like more people are warming up to him. Number 6, Dingodile. If you're a fan of the blocker gameplay loop, you'll probably have this guy a lot higher on your list, but for me, an avid scorer, I just can't have him higher than this. Dingo is incredibly slow and doesn't do well pivoting his actions mid-game. Your best bet is to choose a bank and sit tight. He's an absolute tank that packs a punch, and a good Dingo probably doesn't lose too many fights, but the limitations he has in mobility are just too limiting for me. Number 5. After the beta, Torna was my favourite character. The high Wumper count, fast mobility, and decent combat options, she was always a blast to play. Since getting more time to play certain characters, including a few new ones however, Torna doesn't quite have the stick she once had. The wind-up her grapple has before moving always allowed enemy trophies to hunt me down more efficiently, and with the addition of some more aerial-based characters, her uppercut slam move doesn't feel as useful as it did in the beta. Number 4, Dr. Entropy. Tropy is my favourite blocker in the game for one simple reason: speed. She isn't as strong as Dingo, but her faster mobility makes up for it in spades. She is well capable at hunting down pesky scorers, unlike the other two, and she even has the capabilities to score semi-efficiently as well. The only complaint I have for her is that she takes too damn long to unlock. Number 3, Catbat. Catbat was a super weird character to begin learning. At first they were slow, with the dive bomb feeling strange and stiff, but once you learn how to move around the map, Catbat becomes by far the fastest scorer. With the exception of Tar Valley, every map has some high, vertical surfaces. With some precision in Wumper collecting, your trip back to the bank can be a 2-second dive bomb away. With a burger to help in combat and low health, Catbat is a character that can support themselves. Number 2, Cortex. Cortex was the only character I didn't max out during the beta, so my time with him was limited until now. After some seriously fun games however, I can confirm Cortex is incredible. It's very clear in the hands of more experienced players than myself, Cortex is almost too good. As if, in an effort to make Cortex balanced, they made him hard to learn. The only problem being, once you master him, there's very little drawback to using him. He's the one character I can certainly see getting a nerf in future updates, which is also something I'd like to cover in future Rumble videos, so stay tuned for that. Number 1. Coco. After hundreds of games, I think I can safely say that Coco is my favourite character to play. One thing you might think is curious is the fact that I said I enjoy scoring, yet my 2 favourite characters in the game are both of the boosters, each with a 90 Wumper cap. Well, I feel that the cap is in place purely because if it weren't, boosters would be by far the fastest scorers in the game. They really end up being the jack of all trades. With fast mobility and plenty of combat versatility to come out of fights alive, Coco with Wumperstash has been my favourite setup to roll into games for quite some time. Now, I know I said I'd rank the maps, but more so than anything else in the game, they all match each other in design philosophy and quality. I don't think I'd be able to rank them. I could say Tar Valley is my least favourite, but even then I'd have to admit that it's always good to have at least one simple flat map. Instead, I think I may rank the epic relic stations on each map. Maybe I'll do the common ones in a future video, but for now, let's focus on the epic. Number 9, Oxide. Slow and only able to focus on one player at a time, Oxide is really only a nuisance to the team opposing it. Or rather, one member of the team. Also, I understand the whole UFO in the desert aesthetic, but It would have been nice to save Oxide for a space-related level, or even a playable character, but it is nice to see him at all. Number 8, Sandstorm. A minor inconvenience at best, Sandstorm does however make parts of the map inaccessible to the opposing team. Avoiding it isn't too bad, but if the map is lacking in Wumpa at the time, having less of the map to traverse could be annoying. Number 7, Dragons. If fights break out in the banks or gems, these dragons can help turn those fights in your favour, trapping your enemies or forcing them away. Number 6, Spirit Guardian. Giving your whole team a bump in attack power and defense and size, allowing you to kinda do what you want for the time it's active. It still relies on your input to get the most out of it though. Number 5, Uka Uka. Essentially the same as Spirit Guardian, but swap the oversized armor for a shield and meteor shower that only needs you to be close to your enemies to work. Number 4, Big Bonsai. Triggering Big Bonsai at the right time in the match can lead to an easy win. If you have the right boosts, you can get over half the Wumpa you need to win just by activating this epic relic station. Only issue is you're asking for the entire opposing team to come and stop you before you can get any of the Wumpa back to the bank. Number 3, Bonus Bank. In my opinion, the better version of Big Bonsai. If you manage to blindside the opposing team when you unlock this, you can win entire games in seconds if your team rallies together to unlock and bank as much as possible. You may only be able to bank once on this platform, but more often than not, that's enough. Number 2, Uka Uka. Imagine Spirit Guardians, but with the opportunity to go at 3 times speed. With the right team coordination, Uka Uka can help you bank, block and boost in such quick succession the other team won't know what hit them. Getting from one side of the map to the other in a matter of seconds, the right Wumpa routes can allow you to bank several times while donning the mask. Number 1, TNT Drones. Imagine if there were several Oxides that could target multiple team members at once. TNT drones may be slow, but the amount of pressure they'll put on the opposing team means they won't be able to sit long in one spot, with several TNT drones following them across the map. Though I did name this video Launch Review, I do think there is more to talk about as we see how a standard season plays out in the game. At the time of releasing this video, Ripperoo isn't far away from dropping. After that, we'll look forward to a new map, Bogged Down, a new power-up, Sticky TNT, and Dr. Engine as a new hero. A new limited time mode called Zap Trap is also happening a couple times this season. I think I'll go more into detail about my thoughts on new modes next video, which I think you can expect sometime after Season 1 ends. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for sticking around and watching the entire video. If you want to stay informed on my future reviews or season recaps for Rumble, subscribe down below. Thanks for watching DaAcorn, and I'll see you next time.